Hi folks, comic book creator and Lost in Space superfan Jeff Nicholson here to answer the question nobody asked, but I want to answer, what's inside those hatches? You probably know the answers, but I might have a couple of surprises for you. First up, the upper deck starboard hatch. This is the first one we get a glimpse into on episode 1, and it appears to be a locker for spacesuits. It remains open for the next couple episodes, including the crash to Priplanus. Then it's back to being hatched up for most of Season 1. There is one odd exception on Episode 21 where Dr. Smith is sneaking some tools out of the hatch and suddenly is now lined with shelves. There's even a shot revealing an exposed 2x4 in the set construction, wood grain, pine knots, and all. I suppose the Robinsons could have done some light remodeling on the upper deck, but I really think this was a director choice to get some different angles and no continuity thought was put into it. Now let's jump to Color Season 2, Episode 3, where they're being attacked by missiles from the Ghost Planet, and there's suddenly a porthole in that hatch. Not unreasonable, because we do see that porthole on the rear exterior of the ship model occasionally. So maybe they cleared away the spacesuit lockers and Dr. Smith's shelves so they can now access the porthole. I'm actually still on board with this. Although, footnote, the porthole and the hatch always close for the rest of the season when they're on planet, rather than giving themselves a nice view of the backyard, because as we know, there is no backyard. Then in Season 3, things really get different. Inside the hatch, by the porthole, we see this framed star chart art kind of thing back there, and people enter and exit the area like it's a stage. But there's a reason for this. They moved to a new soundstage for Season 3, and the ladder and elevator didn't have the 6-foot deep silos under them for the characters to descend and ascend. They were only a couple of feet deep, enough to simulate a start. I never noticed this when I was a kid. But because of this limitation, they started doing a lot of entry and exit from this hatch. Here we see John and Dawn duck in there, and then reappear in the lower deck, as though there is some stairway back there behind the elevator that we've never seen in Season 1 or 2. In this sequence, Smith and the robot and the whole family come running out of there during an emergency. Also, strangely, that star art chart is now on a perpendicular short wall to the left instead of on the back wall. Weird. And then in this episode, there is this odd partition dividing the way of the stage entrance and exit. John goes in behind it, Will comes out in front of it. What is that all about? Now, over to the upper deck aft hatch. They managed to never show what was in this hatch all through Season 1, which would really pay off in Season 3. And they almost made it through Season 2, then, oh darn, they reveal it to be a weapons locker. This is unfortunate because we all know in Season 3, they reveal it to be the space pod, a Season 3 addition to spice up the show. Some interesting trivia about how the pod was introduced. In Hunter's Moon, Professor Robinson announces they're going to use the space pod to get down to the planet. Dawn replies, "The space pod? That hasn't been tested since we left Alpha Control." But that scene with Dawn was cut. Why? They decided to air Kidnapped in Space first, the one where they recycled the derelict ship from Season 1, probably to get another space story in before they become planet-bound again. In this episode, Dr. Smith steals the pod, so the introduction to it is not even discussed, and somehow Smith knows how to fly it. It's a really terrible way to introduce this new addition to the show. It would have been much more heroic to have Professor Robinson taking on it on its inaugural flight with the robot down to the planet. Oh well, they didn't care about continuity back then. Okay, one more. The lower deck aft hatch, the one with a radiation symbol on it. This one was never opened in all of Season 1 and even Season 2. Then in Season 3, it became the before-mentioned secret route to the secret stairway. And then in the episode Space Creature, Will uses it to escape from a possessed Dr. Smith. Instead of going into the power core, he takes a left into this hatch. Is it going to be that secret stairway? Nope, it's a storage area full of dehydrated food boxes and other gear. I guess they didn't know about those boxes when they traded the robot to the space trader for food in Season 1. Then through another hatch. Then down a ladder to here. I guess this is the power core, even though it's not through the door marked power core. I always took this to be inside the spinning lighted disc on the bottom of the ship, even though the scale is all wrong. Then the space creature appears, now represented as a guy in a sheet. I have to point this out. This fear-siphoning creature is really similar to another fear-siphoning creature in Star Trek The Next Generation, the one who rises out of a tar pit and also looks like a guy in a sheep. And guess what? It's the same voice actor for both of these episodes, Ron Gans. You can look him up on IMDb. You know the baritone voice. I'm getting stronger, and you're getting weaker. This can't be coincidence. Some TNG writer certainly dug this Lost in Space episode. And so did I. Okay, that's it. I'm done.
Highly recommended are Mark Cushman's excellent books about the series, where you can read about all of these filming orders and other wonderful trivia. And you can also read my books. A couple of them are parodies of Lost in Space in my Ultra Klutz comic and in some of the collections, which are available digitally via Comixology. You can visit me at my old-fashioned website or on the loathsome social media if you must. Must we? Anyhow, hope you enjoyed. This is all just in good fun. Bye-bye.